We're barreling through our third day at Everything Electric, and I hope you've seen some of the other content that we have produced. The great and the good of the EV world have been here celebrating electric vehicles of all kinds, big, small, flying, on water and on the road. And we've even had some solar electric vehicles. The team at UBC, they've had their solar electric car. Absolutely incredible. But we can't talk about solar electric vehicles without talking about Aptera, a company that I always think of as one of the original companies when it comes to designing vehicles for efficiency rather than bells and whistles. And here on stand with me is co-CEO of Aptera, Steve Fambro. Steve, it is so great to have you here at Everything Electric. I hope you've enjoyed your time in Canada thus far.
I have. It's been great. My former board member lives here, and he's been very gracious to show me around. And of course, seeing Vancouver and Canada for the first time, it's amazing. So clean and organized. We have a lot to learn from it.
And lots of different multimodal forms of transportation as well.
Yes, bikes, trains, buses, lots of places to walk, proper bike paths.
And lots of supporters of Aptera that live in Canada, right? You've got a big fan base here.
They told me it would be a lot, but virtually every seat was filled when I was up talking with Sandy, and I was mobbed by Aptera customers and accelerators afterwards, and I got to talk with every one of them.
I have seen so many Aptera hats and t-shirts floating around. It shows that Aptera has managed to do something that a lot of companies haven't, which is have a real grassroots enthusiasm about what you're doing and what you're trying to bring to market and how it's different to other vehicles. Now, the last time I think we saw each other was a couple of years ago, just after you had opened your new facility in San Diego. And obviously I was down earlier this year or late last year, I can't remember which, to get my first real world drive, which was phenomenal, and I had to chat with Chris there. But how have things been in the time since? There's been a lot of changes going on up at Aptera.
A lot of ups and downs related to fundraising, related to powertrain changes and personnel changes, and the overall shift of a lot of the automotive and mechanical sciences and engineering to our Italian partners. And so that's created a lot of change within the company, but it's made us much leaner and able to stretch our dollar much further.
And you've made a really massive change in vehicle design public in the last couple of months. Obviously, this is something you've been working on in the background for a significant amount of time. You had to wait until you were confident of the change in engineering before you made it public, but you've decided to, for now, not use in-wheel motors for your launch Aptera solar electric car, and instead to go with a more traditional inboard motor design. Tell me about that process.
That's right. It was a painful decision for us to pause that work. Alafe has been a great partner. We co-designed the motor with them. They have fantastic engineers and staff. The problem was really on our side, is how do we do the proper development for the inverter. We had to design an inverter from scratch, one for each wheel, and we just didn't want to have the risk and also spend the bandwidth to productionize the inverter. I think that's something we would do in the future, but to me it represented another level of risk that we could simply avoid just by stepping back and going with something a little more mainstream and proven, while we figure out the best use for Alafe in-wheel technology for our vehicle. And I think it's going to still be all-wheel drive, but maybe focus only on the rear wheel. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
So, to be clear, you're still road mapping out a future with in-wheel motors because as a company you still believe that is the best choice. It's just a matter of having to choose, do we spend extra time developing the systems and potentially delaying the product to a point that might be detrimental for everybody. And that's a really tough decision for any startup. You're certainly not alone having to make that kind of tough engineering decision.
No, but I think one thing we can learn from other people who've made those decisions or similar ones is almost everyone says they regret not making it soon enough. And so once once that feeling of risk was triggered in me, we made the decision right away, because we didn't want to keep spending money and time in developing something that we didn't have the expertise to develop. But in the future, I think we definitely can put the right resources on that to make it something that's our customers would love to have.
And something that is unique to Aptera is that you and Chris have been on this journey before, so you've seen some of the pitfalls and how to avoid them. Now you are both in charge of the company and you're driving it towards this singular vision of making an efficient three-wheeler that can satisfy the needs of a massive proportion of the population. You've been working, as you said, with your team in Italy, with your partners in Italy. You now have your PI bodies. Tell me about how that's going.
Well, the PI builds are the first pre-production builds. So there's 16 of them, I believe, and those vehicles allow us to do all of the development. So braking, ABS testing, suspension. I think there's 5 for crash test airbag validation in there, thermal, range, etc. The first 3 of those begin construction Tuesday when the Italians arrive. So we've got all the parts from Italy, we've had them trimmed, we've got our chassis parts that arrived, we've got the motors, we've got our own in-house battery pack. And so when Mercury, which is PI2, when Mercury drives by the end of September, it will be production intent BINC, production intent frame geometry, production intent battery pack, BMS, our own design, production intent powertrain. So we'll really be demonstrating all of the production bits that are going to be a production vehicle for the first time. It won't be a prototype, it won't be an alpha, beta, or gamma. It'll be the production intent vehicle.
And your intent is to get bums in seats, to get those accelerator program supporters driving the cars, and then early next year getting those cars out onto driveways.
Right. The first 16 are mostly for internal use only. I think there's one or two press vehicles, but the first 50 that we're building next year, a portion of those, I would say somewhere between 10 and 20, are going to be for sale for customers. So they're going to be delivered to Aptera customers, hopefully before Q2 of next year, and those will be the first production vehicles that we will ship.
History has not been kind to Aptera, both in its initial guise and now, and as you've edged towards production, we've started to see world governments become a little bit more hostile towards EVs in some ways. We've seen the automotive industry as a whole become more skeptical again of EVs. Some people will say that's because of external influences and politics, but some people will say that's just the way that they are. How is Aptera going to blast through that anti-EV FUD and make sure that it can reach that production status when pretty much every other company is either rolling back production plans or having worries about the future?
That is a fantastic question, because I heard Kate mention the J.D. Power study this morning on your show, so I want to talk about that. But first I want to go back to what Aptera's mission is. Our mission is, we believe every journey should be powered by the sun. That's not changing. So whether oil goes up or down, whether a tyrant shuts off another pipeline or not, our mission is the same, every journey powered by the sun. So we've taken our solar IP and we've began looking at other non-vehicle sale revenue models for our technology. We've deployed our first airport ground support tug, completely solar powered, at the airport in Salt Lake City for one of the world's largest airlines as part of a pilot program. We're working with RV companies. We're going to be working with school bus companies. We believe demonstrating that solar power on the vehicle can provide most or all the vehicle's needs that's going to be our focus, period. Now, for the FUD that you're talking about, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I think what most people attribute to conspiracies is probably due to just incompetence and lethargy.
Right.
But it does seem strange that the J.D. Power survey and the data show that electric vehicles are more popular than ever, but yet you have the mainstream news and the automotive companies saying, well, customers don't want to buy them. And I think there's a lot to unpack there. Maybe they mean they don't want to buy an expensive $90,000 electric SUV. Maybe they would rather buy the $15,000 Chinese SUV that we're trying to prevent from coming here, or car, not SUV. But I don't believe that the truth is being manifest in the news. And I think you picked up on it this morning with the JD Power. I think everyone looks around and sees, especially in California, more and more people buying electric vehicles. It doesn't really jive with what we're reading on the news. So something's afoot.
And for Aptera, obviously, using your solar technology, and your IP for solar technology isn't let's put solar panels on a vehicle, it's let's figure out how to make flexible, robust, durable solar panels and put them on a car. I've spoken to your solar engineering team at great length, and that's the biggest challenge, to design solar panels that conform to a non-planar surface, that capable of withstanding significant vibration, are easily fixable or replaceable. That's really your solar USP, isn't it?
Yes, we believe for it to be sustainable in a commercial sense, it has to become part of the vehicle. It can't be an add-on to the vehicle.
Right.
So imagine so many vehicles out there with glass roofs. Our glass panel would be made to the exact same curvature and shape and strength and just simply bond in place at the factory instead of a clear glass roof. But the advantage of our IP is that we're able to tailor and dial in the exact amount or maximize the amount of solar on the vehicle and make sure that those panels don't degrade over 1 or 2 years because of vibration. We've talked with one company that they bought the panels from Amazon and put them on a golf cart and had problems with them. Well, of course they are, because they're not designed for vibration. But with our system, they would be able to get more range and a very long life of performance.
And of course, bringing a B2B element into your overall strategy means that you're offsetting the cost so that the consumer, the retail consumer, is not footing the entire bill for your R&D, especially with those initial lower volume production runs, which helps keep the cost down, right?
Precisely, not only for the R&D costs, but to keep the material, the inventory fresh. A lot of the polymer sacks, the makeup of the polymer sacks that we have, they don't like to be stored a long time. So we get better pricing, fresher material, better pricing on cells and everything else. We get to exercise the equipment more, make sure that it's ready to scale for production. So it helps the Aptera consumer in the end, because the company is generating revenue. Fundraising is not revenue. and we don't want to continue to run the company, obviously, off of fundraising. So any way we can offset that with real revenue and leverage our IP, I think, is a big benefit.
You've been really busy working on the HMI interfaces inside Aptera. Tell me how that's going. We've seen a lot of screenshots and a lot of teasers. When are we going to see like a fully functioning HMI walkthrough?
I would say pretty soon. Definitely this year, maybe in a few months. HMI is one of those things. It's like, what would we have preferred is to get some off-the-shelf unit and use. It's just not that simple. It's either too big, it doesn't fit in our air conditioning vent periphery. The software stack isn't compatible with what we're trying to do. So it's one of those things that we had to become vertically integrated in. Why? When we went to real partners who make these high volume computers, for a living, the cost was just too exorbitant. So was the timeline. So we have our own second generation of our own design that's been rolled. That board goes for, it's already in layout. I think it's going to be spun pretty soon. It's based on a Linux stack. And then the software, the user interface, if you will, most of the ideation, all of the ideation of how it operates, what do you click, what's supposed to happen when you click this, that kind of thing, that's been done. Now it's just the underlying the code to tie it all in together, make it work. But I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's one of the bright spots in the company because of all the information that we're going to be able to share with the consumer, show them real time how solar is working. It's not just a gimmick. They'll be able to see exactly how much power they're making. It's just pretty cool.
And you, obviously, with the move away from the in-wheel motors, to begin with, we're just going to get two-wheel drive vehicles. Do you have a hope for all-wheel drive production? Do you have a timeline for that you're willing to share, or are you still working on iterating out how that's going to flow into the future?
I don't have a timeline yet, and the reason why is we're trying to enforce from the top down, a close the book, pencils down mentality. So it would be incongruent of management to then go and task the engineering team with well, go and think about this right now. I want them laser focused on getting this vehicle in production, and whether it's a different team, a parallel team that handles that integration, it's something that we're going to do later. It's not going to be something that we disrupt this team from launching the vehicle on. But I will say, we believe in all-wheel drive. We believe in the best use of in-wheel motors probably for the rear-wheel drive, and it's not something that we're going to walk away from.
And to finish, Steve, we've got, in previous chats I've had with the entire team at Aptera, has been discussion of how regulators have viewed solar electric vehicles like yours, and that very fine line between automobile and car. And I know you like to think of your vehicle as neither, right? It fits somewhere in its own segment. How is the conversations going with regulators about ensuring that all the FVMSS standards are met to make sure that everything is actually buttoned down and sealed, so that you don't have random US states or random countries coming along and going, oh, well, you can't do that in our state or our region because we don't think X, Y, and Z?
Well, I don't see any red flags there. We retained FMVSS, or former NHTSA folks, as counsel over 2 years ago. And so we've made design decisions from then to make sure that we essentially, A, comply with all motorcycle regulations, and B, are able to bring in as many of the automotive FMVSS as feasible, like the roof crush, the frontal impact, things like this. I think the way to think about it is a blue ocean category of vehicle. It's not a car, it's not a motorcycle. I honestly think it's an untapped new segment for all the automotive companies to consider, because we're bringing a product into this space that's really non-existent. There's nothing like it. There's motorcycle-like vehicles or open-top vehicles, nothing like the Aptera that's going to be available in this space. And I think once people see the traction in it, I think other larger companies will want to get into that space too, because they have so much freedom to operate compared to the highly regulated space of a passenger vehicle.
And I think these final few months, as you're seeing your production intent chassis and bodies arrive, you say production on those vehicles is starting next week on Tuesday, you're at a very, very heightened level of activity. You're also at a very heightened level of stress. How do you all, stay sane at the company and ensure that actually you are focused on that end goal?
Everyone has their own individual way. For me, it's the gym and the running trails. For the company, every couple of weeks, we'll host a cookout where myself and Director of Special Projects Tim will man the grill, also with Manny, one of the firmware engineers. There might be some beers there, and so we let loose a little bit, and we're not so restrictive. We're very accommodating of people and their needs, but I think at the phase that we're in right now, it's so exciting to come in every day. It's like that is a reward for people. It's not a burden of trying to get people motivated. It's almost the opposite of just trying to tell people you need to go take some time off, you need to go home, because they're so excited to be there. So we're in a lucky phase right now.
Steve, it has been great to talk to you. Thank you so much, and good luck. The expectant fathers, I think I'm going to call you both.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, our Patreon page, our YouTube comment section, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of the more than 1,500 people who help make this channel possible through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure that we can remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers you can sign up for, from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, around $10.08 a year. A massive welcome to our newest supporters: Bree Crockford, CAP, Christian Balal, Everything on a Bagel, Pidge Eon, and Brett Chandler. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below for Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have a good old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, the address for which you'll also find below. And if you're in need of some swag, do check out our swag store in the down below. We've got some fantastic content coming right up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. As a reminder, we make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the almighty algorithm thinks you might enjoy this video, but what does it know? We think this one is also well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving.